Good morning. Good morning. I had to redo the beginning of this. I guess on Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock, because it's happened before. They're full. Unfortunately, I missed a little notice they kind of sent, but I gathered it was, so I was waiting to see and found it wasn't on right at 7. I mean, not at 7, at 9. Sorry, I'm a bit discombobulated after this when this happens. So it's 9:04. So here I am, Norma Cowie, and let me move that out of the way because I had to re-put everything in again. Today we're looking at the October tarot card reading. And I was interested to see what was happening because a lot of people talked about October 1st, look out. Well, there were some dust ups in the Middle East. So that was the only thing I could see that actually kind of happened, but a lot happens in the wings that you don't know about, correct? Anyway, so here we go for looking at October, but I'm settling myself. It's funny how we panic and then try and put everything in quickly again. But yes, that's kind of thing what happened. Well, it's really interesting because this is October 2nd. So the beginning of October, what we have that comes up is Nine of Swords, which is a great deal of sorrow and poor me, what's going on, what's happening, I'm not sure. It is a card that talks about depression. It's there's no hope in a way because it's all black background, all swords, which are problems and issues. And the woman is weeping in her bed. But as always, there's a little bit, if you can see clearly down here, or if you have a deck of these, the quilt on the bed, or the bedspread, if you want to call it that, has the red roses of desire intermingled with astrological signs. So there's always, and it's always, as always, sorry, I'm a little discombobulated because of having to restart everything. It's, and oh yeah, and on the bed down here, there's a swordsman is like a swords, and he's felling another. So everything hasn't gone very, very well at all. So yes, October 1st came and we're only in the 2nd. So that can apply. I think that applies till about tomorrow, which will be the 3rd. But then what happens is the 6 of Cups. Now, the 6 of Cups, I always find is kind of interesting. It's like these two little gnomes or two little peoples of somewhere, and they're sharing this cup. And in sharing the cup, the communication and the cup is, all the cups have got greenery and got little flower in them. There's so many points on the flower, but that's really getting super technical. And they're inside a castle, and you would presume there's a wall on the other side of this. Also very significant is this cup that's high. Underneath it is like a shield with a cross. The cross in tarot terms is really like the number 10. So, but here is communication with these delightful little beings, actually. And they are going to, they're talking about what's going on because the male one is handing it towards the female. I don't know whether it's to smell. He's smelling it. I've got to relook at them. I haven't looked at it. He's smelling it, but she's looking at him because she's much smaller, kind of like little hobbits they are, in a way. And I nearly forgot till I looked at the card again. Over here is the god walking away in the castle. He's got a long spear. So he's the god. He's watching. He's looking to see what's going on. So, and that's like the world is watching. We've, there's when you really consider it, bombs have been dropped. I think it's bombs, but maybe it's just soldiers have gone into another country, and it's beginning to heat up. And So this is like it being on guard. Like it's sad. Nobody wants everything to explode, but it was chatted about quite a bit because I'm not really out there in conversational land, but I had heard about it and from several people about October 1st. Watch October 1st. Watch October 1st. And so here we have between October 1st and I'm going to say by the 3rd, people are wanting to kind of calm everything down, but it feels like they're trying to figure out. Now they're inside a castle wall, obviously, and they're here. Everything is nice and everything is pleasant, and they're talking about. He's the little. I see them as gnomes, but the little people. He's sharing with the lady gnome, who's really tiny, these beautiful things. But the other thing is, I should show you this because I always found this interesting because I always look when I'm reading, where does my eye go? My eye didn't go here. I'm just looking at to discuss. But if you look down here, and I'm going to put it really close, I got the wrong side. This little flower is bent down. So there's sadness here. It's like a lily, I guess. I don't know. I don't know my flowers that well. I'm not a gardener, so I think that's what's going to happen about the 3rd. There's going to be some conversation. There's going to be some, and we're nearly at the 3rd. That's tomorrow. There's going to be some conversation, and I also think right now we're looking at history a little bit. What's gone on in that Middle East area before? The tensions that people have between us, and so it's, without naming countries, etc., it's really about how we can communicate. And I think then if we go from, let's say, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and we go into the 6th and 7th, well, actually it goes longer than that when the next, and that is that is the 4 of Cups. So we've gone from the 6 of Cups to the 4 of Cups. And when we look here, notice the stance of the man under the tree. Arms crossed, legs crossed. 3. Now, if you were looking at all the symbols, number 3 is where people are celebrating, whether they're happy and whether they're great. And then they come down onto the ground. And number 4, which follows the 3, is you got 3 cups in front of the man and he's looking at them. But look at the one in the sky. It's like it's coming out of a cloud with a hand. So in other words, there's an alternative here. But do you think this person is open to it? So what we've got is conversation, or maybe a peace thing element happening. But they're not listening. So I really think between now and the 10th, this is going to take, because it's all a little bit jumbled up. I think what we're going to find is that people are going to try and find some solution. And in the solution, what ends up happening is that people aren't listening. Or maybe one wants to talk and the other doesn't want to listen. But when you have your arms folded and when you have your legs folded like this, then you are not open to what's being said. You're just going. So I think if we want to do a rough, I would say between now and the 10th, they may want to talk, they may want to listen, they may want to sort of say, hey, look, and maybe it's going to be accelerating, but no, there's people here that don't want to listen. They're just got their modus operandi, and then that's it. And so what happens from that is the Hanged Man, which is acceptance. So this is where, and I still get around the 10th. That 10th is very rumbly. The energy is very it's like a corrugated road, it's like when you go boom, 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 boom down the road. And so then from then to around the 13th or so, it's like people are beginning to accept, okay, this is what's going on. Like really, we always are optimists. I think our world breaks down into 2 parts, the optimists and the cynic. And so it's like the optimists are going to say, oh, we'll get this sorted out. We'll just cook. We'll do what we've done before and everything will soothe out. And then comes the acceptance that that's not going to happen, that it's going to be as it's going to be. And it's a sad, I feel very sad inside here. I feel very like, oh, this is going to get really not very happy, shall we say? And so then what follows is the Ten of Swords. Now, if you look at very closely at the Ten of Swords, there's a lot of symbolism in the Ten of Swords. 9 swords go up the man's back, so he's obviously dead. 1 is by the head. His hand, though, that's lying on the sand that's in the front of the symbol, makes a hand movement which shows up in several of the symbols. And it's like a benediction, actually. And so he's sort of saying, well, here I am, everything's sort of coming to an end. Now, how's that end? Is that end a plus? Is it minus? Etc. As it's coming to an end, that you see right beside the man is the water, which is emotions. So there's an ending, there's and we presume there's a fight, which we know is actually happening right now, and in several parts of the world. And so it's like, here we go. Then remember, this is for North America. So this is North America involved in what's going on somewhere else. And but so there's maybe discussions and maybe people trying to figure out a solution, but they don't seem to be having one. And they finally accept, okay, now what do we do? Because it's an ending here. This is an ending. So I think personally, between now and probably around, definitely by the 20th, there is this going on all the time. Newness, figuring, coming to terms, accepting, and realizing, okay, what else is there? But as soon as we begin to get into the late teens and early 20s, as often happens, communication. And this is a very peaceful symbol. This brings peace. This brings an understanding of awareness and how it all comes together and how it all works. And you've got the healing symbol with, I've got a mental block at the minute at the lion's head, but with wings. The male is dressed very flowery. The woman is dressed very plainly. One has the palms on the head. I think the woman has the palm and the man has the pomegranates. If you some of the symbology coming through the tarot, that's in the higher arcana. Those are very symbolic of male and female, and they're communicating. And that's the key. And anytime you have a dissension going on, and also too, remember in October for America and Canada, is that there is a vote coming up for next month. And a lot of this, when I kind of I'm thinking a little bit worldwide, but actually the reading was for North America. So I need to bring myself back down to looking at what's going on here in our political arena. Because I got kind of carried away with what's happening somewhere else. But I think this is going to be a tough. It's not going to be an easy flow, at least until the early 20s of the month. And just when you think, oh, good, things are settling down, they're organizing themselves, etc., what do we get? 7 of Swords. 7 of Swords is usually our guilt, our regrets, or things. Gotta poke my glasses, but new glasses, and they don't quite fit exactly as I'd like them in my ears. Just like world right now, it may not fit exactly, but it's happening. Anyway, with the 7 of Swords, he carries, if I remember rightly, 7. No, he doesn't carry. He carries 5, and 2 are left in the camp that he's sort of stealing away from. So there's still some fighting going on, but underneath, people are not being as honest as they need to be. They're kind of, I always equate this a little bit with stealing, but what are we stealing? Ideas, concepts, not being honest. This is the large part. This is a thief. So this is like, taking ideas from somewhere and sort of holding them. And so again, when we're looking at our own North American arena regarding politics, and because the voting doesn't come, I can't remember the date for the US or here even. So I've been involved with my arm, but and so sometimes I'm missing on little bits where I maybe would do some research. And then it's all over the place. I tell you, often when we do a reading, it flows just like a beautiful river going down. This month, October, is not like that. You'll hear something one day, you'll hear another thing the next day, the next thing something else is erupted, then another thing. It's not easy. It's not a flow. It doesn't, I don't like it. Like when I get people's readings, sometimes they don't flow. I like it when readings flow, when you can pick up and it just flows and it's all there, very easy. This shows subterfuge, unreality, not talking truth, all those kind of things. And yet still at times people attempting to do that. Now, when we take a look at the next symbol, which now means we're getting into the 20s, into the late 20s, because we're getting near the end of this. See, even the dates aren't coming easy. It all blends into being sort of in a big blender, blending up, and it's rough because there's no flow. You'll hear I will say sometimes, there's such a delightful flow here, and because it builds or it moves in a direction. But this is like, when you've taken all the bits and pieces and made a supper out of them, and a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and a little bit of this, and it's like, so yeah, piecemeal is probably the word. Anyway, we're ending up towards the late 20s for sure here, and because we're going to get into the 30s in a minute. Queen of Pentacles is an attitude. Now, there's a difference between a situation and an attitude. An attitude is how you approach things. Now, here, the Queen of Pentacles is dealing with material world. The red roses, which we saw earlier in the, red roses have popped up. In the beginning, in the 9 of Swords, and again, actually, on the headdress of the male in the 2 of Cups. So now she has a bar over of the red roses of desire. She's looking at her pinnacle. So she's all absorbed. Little bunny over here runs around, which we know is a representative of abundance, because bunnies produce like crazy. It's not necessarily sad. It's not necessarily happy. It's like contemplating what is and figuring out a resolution. And whatever is happening, by the time we get to 30 days, I think it's 30 days in October. I'm not sure. It didn't look. The world, balance. Everything goes back into its place. Everything even equals up. And all the scrapping and all the different ideas that are going on, all the not wanting to listen, all the whatever is happening here through this month of October comes to resolution, comes to an acceptance, comes to being, comes to an awareness. The woman who's got, there's a lot of symbolism in here. If you knew the tarot, the Lovers has a purple scarf is now draped around the woman. Inside the laurel wreath of victory, which shows up quite a bit. And the 4 fixed signs from the world, from the Wheel of Fortune, sorry. Still waking up. If it's going to end on something after all this, it couldn't have been better. It's like maybe the key is everything falls into place. Everything is exposed or aware or knowing. There's nothing hidden in this. The woman is the scarf basically hides the body. And I'm going to just push this really close here to get away from me. There, 4 fixed signs. And she is dancing Actually, to get in the symbolism, we have the hanged man here. Remember the hanged man, which we had early. The Her feet basically is like his feet. There's a part of the acceptance. She has the balance of the two ones, because in the magician, when he first started, he has ones raising up to create. So that actually is the one thing in this whole reading that gives me a little sense of purpose, a little sense of being. We only have the two higher arcana cards, which is where we get the strength. The main thing is the hanged man in the world. We have no wands, which is the ideas and the communications. We have 1, 2, 3 cups, which is the emotions. And it's about the attempt of balancing, but things still coming in and we don't want to listen to them. We don't want to know about it. Let them go away. And eventually, and I should actually show you this because this is a good journey. First, I've got to get this right. First is the toe. Communicating and healing, and that's endeavored in the middle of the month. The 4, I'm trying to figure it out. My elbow is still very sore and stitches in there rubbing on this top. Okay, the 4 though gets stubborn, set, and saying this is it, even though other things are being shown and looked at. And then comes the 6 with the communication, but still it's not an open, it's the communication between two people is good, but otherwise it's not. So the emotional element's happening. Then we have 3 swords. We have number 7. I often equate this with guilt and regret and not being super truthful, because we got the little man stealing away from the camp with some of the swords that are in the camp. The 9, which is unhappy, not doing anything to resolve anything but feel sorry for themselves. And then the 10, I pick that up just so easy. And then the 10, where everything comes to an end. But there's hope in that, because the darkness here, this is a very good example. In the 9, we have a whole dark background, right? No light at all, just feel miserable. The 10, it begins to light up. It's moving away. So sometimes things have to come to an end, and sometimes endings aren't always the easiest either. And then we have one little lonely pentacle, which is dealing with the material world. But it's an attitude, and attitudes are important because that's how we think, feel, and respond the most often. And this queen absolutely is contemplating, is thinking. No action, because it's a queen. The queens have no real action, but some of them look towards action. This lady doesn't. She wants the resolution. She wants the things to all come together. And honestly, from my perspective, when I put this out, about an hour ago, and I put it out to look at it, it was like I didn't want to look at it. It was like, well, I've heard too many people say that, watch for October 1st is what some people said. But it's a month of transition too. I don't know, our weather's changing. We're moving into fall. There are some things in October that go on. But at the same point, what I see here is resistance to communicate, resistance to really be aware what's going on, wanting to perhaps talk and not getting a response. So resistance again. So even though the word resistance doesn't come up really strong, it's my feeling of resistance. It's my feeling of not wanting to see what's really going on. And it's a little bit like what we do sometimes in life, where we put our head in the sand, people say, oh, well, you're just, putting your head in the sand. You're not really assessing everything. We have a tendency when we take sides, or when we want to believe in one thing or another thing, to dig our heels in and put our head in the sand and not listen or not see or not know. The one thing that I felt really good about this is that it does show from, especially in the early part, a little bit of communication between the in the cups. The 2 and the 6, both are communicational symbols where people talk. I got to get this right. I'm using my hands. There we can't find my own camera. There we go. Communication. We need communication. We need, but to me, it's big on acceptance, and there's very little in this month of acceptance of something else that we don't really agree. We'll have communication, but we want it our way. We want it to be the way we want it to be. Now, this is for North America for October. Now, it looks in a way to me being very political, but remember, it's also in this way representing us. How open are we in our communication with others? How open are we in listening and being open to another idea that maybe is not what we believe or think or even want to consider? How open are we in moving forward with our friends, our families, being open to different things? This may be a month to really consider that and see where you've got your own barriers up, where you believe in something so strongly that you're not open to hear another person's perspective or awareness. Life isn't always easy, as I often remember in my patent. Life is not a bowl of cherries, or it's not a bouquet of flowers. It's like you have to sometimes get stuck in and really think, what do I stand for? What do I believe? What do I want to project? Now, I have to also add in here, because there were no ones. So that means there's no real creative thought coming in. There's no, well, it didn't show what's coming in actually, thinking wise. But, as a metaphysician, through all my training and all my awareness and all the, I don't know, probably thousands of readings I've done for people and many other things that I've done, clearing energy, etc., is that the recognition that we can get very stuck on an idea or a concept. But in reality, how we think is the beginning of everything. What we put out in our vibration, and it's funny, I had that talk back to me by somebody that I know about the importance of, actually what they say is, you taught me that we create via thinking, and what we put out, we create. So when things don't always go the way we want them, we have to go back and look at, well, how are we thinking? Are we believing? Are we supporting? What are we doing ourselves in the creation of things? Very often it's very easy to accept the main line of thought. Everybody says, this is what's happening and this is how it's going to be, or whatever. And I grew up with a father like that. He had his very clear ideas, and I was an argument. I always looked at something else. He told me once that I would argue black was white. And maybe that's true. That's one way I got his attention anyway. But unfortunately, sometimes a little bit of a heavy hand went with it. But it was like, it taught me to see alternatives. And of course, I think I was already psychic at that age. So I was pulling stuff out of the ethers. Life is an interesting element. And very often people get so rigid with an idea that they can't see an alternative or a different way of doing things. They can only see what they want to see. And sometimes it's good to sit back in your own life and just look and say, where am I stuck? Where am I not accepting? I just recently had to look, adjusting my top here. Sometimes you just have to accept what's obviously in your face. And often there's things we don't want to accept. We don't want to look at, we don't want to know about. we are the creators of our world. We have the world in our hands, in other words. And so how we think about things, how we accept them, how we reject them, how we implement them, whatever that is, or is important. And I think this reading for October, not only showing what's going on in North America, but it can also show what goes on for us. Yes, it's not individualized, but we have a tendency to fall into the pattern of what's happening and what's going on in the world. It's going to be an interesting thing. So as I have some people say, well, we've watched this year be very kind of erratic, and we're coming to the last, basically, you've only got November, December to go now. It'll be interesting to see not only what happens externally out there in the world, but what next month's reading shows. This one, I'm not overly joyful about it because, as I said, it's very frustrating for me. There's no flow, and it's like I like flow. Those of you who've watched these before will hear me say that. It's got a nice flow, or you'll have several parts of the month have that flow. This one is very, very rough. It's like climbing stairs, going up and down all around. And so all I can say is ride. It's like, right. I've never surfed, but it's like riding the wave. Decide how you want yourself to be in that wave. Do you want to be on top of the wave? Do you want to be in the middle of the wave? Or do you want to be dumped off the surfboard rumbling? I've had that happen. Actually, just as a side thing, I went to Hawaii, and I as a kid living in New Zealand, we lived near the ocean, and we would dive through the waves, and no, not too much would happen. We had fun. We had lots of fun actually on the beach. And I went to Hawaii, and I went on a beach, and I saw these waves, and I went, oh, okay, I'll just dive underneath these big waves that are coming in, and I'll be fine. Except it got hold of me and literally smashed me into the sand. And I kind of came up, and another wave was coming, and it was not a very happy thing. But I found out later that people broke their necks a lot on that particular beach. I didn't do that again. That was it. It's like we learn by experience. Here I thought was, oh, I know how to do this. And I do in really smaller waves. But that's life's experience. And I'm very, very thankful. All I got was a really kind of, my shoulder really took the brunt of that. But literally it took me like a leaf up and smashed me down into the sand below. And then, of course, you've got your next wave coming in, and then you have to get up and try and get out before it also runs you around. It's a scary thing when life, because the sea is a lot like life, takes you and rums you all up, and you don't have any control at all, except get out the best way you can, trying to get your breath so you're not drinking seawater. Life is full of experiences. If you look at them and see what can you take from that, how does that add? How does that bring? So anyway, going back to the month of October, for me, it's like taking a breath. I've made some decisions lately in my life, changed some things around. And so it's like taking a breath and saying, okay, let's see how this goes, how this works. But I'm still here, and I'm sorry I missed. I've got stitches on my arm here, and this top was not the best decision this morning. It's irritating the stitches. Anyhow, that's my issue, not yours. And I just want you to have an interesting, perhaps listening, but maybe not reacting to some of the things that you'll hear or see or whatever that's going on, number one. But number two, I will be back where Wednesday, I'll be back Sunday, and again on Monday for mental mind treatments. I thoroughly welcome and thank you for watching, for your comments, for your subscriptions. I sent out a little note last night via for the subscribers, and I don't think I wrote it very well. But anyway, take a look at it. If you want any questions, get hold of me, because I'll be quite happy to answer them. Norma, you're supposed to have reread that, and because I always look at things about 3 times, and I didn't last night. It's funny, you have thoughts in your head, and next thing you do something, and then you go, hold on a minute, I don't think I explained that fully. Oh, well. I was just wanted to get some information out, because one person asked me. So I thought, oh, well, if one person's thinking this, so are others. Life is good, and I trust you will have a great week. And I'll be back Sunday for Sunday Thought. We'll see where that takes us. Blessings, Yvonne. Thank you again for being here, supporting. I appreciate it. And life continues. Here we go into October. I mean, what is it today? It's the 2nd, right? Feels like the 10th already. Anyway, bye for now. We'll see you on Sunday. Bye.